Hello. In this video I want to show you the entire plumbing system that I have here in the little gatehouse, which is a single shipping container 40-foot high cube tiny house. So I think it's interesting because before I finish sheeting all the walls and everything and backfilling a lot of the trenches, we can see all of the plumbing as I've had it done, which I think will be very interesting for somebody who might set out to plumb a simple tiny house like this one. So it's the sort of video that I would have liked to have seen some time ago before I started out on this, and it shows you solutions to a lot of problems, like how do you go around the lips at the bottom of shipping containers and so forth. So anyway, so we're going to start with the water coming in and then work all our way out to the water going out. So right through from the inlet of the tank all the way to the transpiration bed at the septic and everything in between. So you'll have to bear with me, it's a bit of a mess. As I said, I'm sort of halfway in between doing all of this, so in some places it does look like a bomb's hit it, but I'd rather spend the time showing you how all this works rather than neaten and tidy everything up. So you'll just have to bear with me. I don't live like this, honestly. Okay, so let's start with the water tank and then go from there. So I suppose we'll start with the roof. Up there we have the roof on top of my two shipping containers. I'll just remind everybody that the first shipping container, this green one, is the actual tiny house, and the brown one here is just a workshop. Basically an empty container, and in the middle is a very messy carport which will be used later on for maintenance, tractor maintenance and so on and so forth in an outdoor workshop. So anyway, the roof there, the span between the two shipping containers on the inside is 5.8 metres, and a shipping container is 12.1 metres long. So plus the width of each shipping container, which is around 2.35 metres. So from there you can I'll leave it as an exercise to the reader to do the maths to see how much roof area I have. That drains down into a 14,100 litre tank bedded on dust that's sitting on, and that comes out of there. So what we have here, so the tank's full of water. The water comes out of just a standard inlet, goes into standard blue line agricultural pipe, which in Australia is okay for water inlet, and then into a pressure pump. So the pressure pump's there, and then it runs down into a trench that's only been half filled at present. I've been a bit busy. That comes up here. I put a T-piece in and a tap rather than just a right hand turn, because you might as well make use of the plumbing that's there, and that takes a right hand turn under there and then turns into around 20 mil what we call in Australia PEX pipe. It's polybutylene pipe, I believe. That then is the main line that runs down. There's a branch off under there to the hot water service, which we'll start with next, then before going inside. So we'll just come up and then have a look at the hot water service. So the hot water service is a Bosch 16H. What's interesting about this hot water service is that it requires no power at all. It has a piezoelectric turbine in it, which uses the flow of the water to generate a little bit of electricity to then drive a spark to light it. So we can see start with the copper gas line coming in here. So we have a temporary tank, don't tell anybody. Here's our regulator, and comes down, and what you'll see, and that line going under there, that goes off to the benchtop cooker, so that's to the stove, and that comes in to the hot water service. So it's an instant hot water service, and that water pipe comes up there with a green stop valve on it and goes into the hot water service. Coming out is the hot water line, What's coming off here to the left is a frost valve. So what that is for is that if the water begins to freeze, it'll let the water out. It'll be interesting to see how well this works. That's there to protect the heat exchanger within the hot water service from rupturing if it freezes. So that's the first port of call for water coming in. That there's the vent pipe, or in Australia as we call them, the stink pipe, for the for all of the sewage plumbing, so for the drains and so forth, which we'll have a look at in a second. So just coming in again, please ignore the mess. This I think is the simplest configuration for a container house bathroom. So a bathroom in the middle of the container house, floor waste drain there, toilet, and a shower bath. Since this is a tiny house on what's going to be a nearly 200-acre farm, you need a bath. You have to have somewhere to unwind. So there's a shower above the bath. So when this is all sheeted up, you'll see that there'll be a piece of glass there to separate the vanity there from the bathtub, so you can have a shower without getting water everywhere. So what's interesting about this is that the floor waste, when we have a look underneath the container in a moment, really does tie all the plumbing together. So floor wastes aren't actually a necessity in Tasmania, which is ridiculous. And the plumber didn't really want to put one in, and I insisted, because I'm like a rhinoceros when I get out of the bath. But when you'll see in a second, it makes it so much easier, so I really do recommend it. So anyway, so there's a mixer with a diverter, which goes between the bath and the shower head here. Bath, floor waste, toilet, and the vanity. The vanity I'm yet to plumb up, but you'll see S-bend. I've got the I've just got to put a big elbow basically in there, and then you can see the pipes, the hot and cold water. Hot always on the left, cold on the right, are there, and they've got their little test caps on them. So these are the first time I've actually seen these test caps. So these are just a little, if you can see in there, they've just got like a little tap washer valve in them, and they allow a plumber to really quickly screw on the end of a tail, like what you see on the end of the spout there, so the copper piece, and put them off for tests. You can see another one sitting here on the cistern valve for the toilet. So up until now I've just been flushing with a bucket of water. I'm just waiting until I sheet that wall and hang the cistern, so we can be a little more civilized. The bath's just got some cold water in at the moment because I have just done the foam underneath it at the front. The bath's actually set in mortar, but because I was waiting on plumbers, I didn't actually do the last third at the front. So the last third at the front is done with expanding foam. And there is another video where I did cock that job up, so watch that one if you're interested in doing it. Hint, that's why it's full of water, so that the expanding foam, as it expands, doesn't lift the bath out of the frame. So I learned that one the hard way. Those wires don't have any power in them. They're just switch wires for the fan and the exhaust fan and the lights that'll go in the next couple of days. So back through here, so sink. I changed my mind where I was going to put the outlet for that sink there, because originally we weren't actually going to put a S-bend in here. I didn't think I'd have enough room with the dishwasher, but it turned out, fortunately, that we did. So there's another S-trap underneath the floor, which we'll see in a moment, but it was good I could still fit one in, because I think the spec is between the main line and an S-bend, it's not allowed to be more than 600 or something like that, and it was longer than that. It wouldn't matter practically, but since I've got the room well, I'll just double up. So there's our hot and cold water again, and there's our pipe coming up here. The only other thing of interest is the other end of that gas plumbing. You saw where it snuck back under the snuck back under the house. So there's the gas plumbing there into a small 2-burner cooker that's sitting there. Hello, we can see myself in the reflection. So pro tip when selling a kettle on eBay, do have some clothes on when you take the photo. So there you have it. So and this is the wife wants an industrial looking kitchen, and that's what she's going to get, considering I've used some lightweight Dexian a lightweight Dexian workbench there. I don't know how much of this will get translated. It'll be tarted up, let me put it that way. So I've still got to put in a range hood. So because there's no doors in this tiny house apart from the door on the bathroom, it's considered one area. So by Australian or Tasmanian spec, there has to be a vented range hood. So that's the cabinet for that sitting there in its box that will go 700 off the top of the burner and hung on that wall, and then vented out that side wall there. So that's tonight's job before I can actually have the gas signed off. So coming out here now, again, don't mind the mess. Let's come around and then have a look at how all the plumbing sits underneath. Oh yeah, just as I come past, I will just note, as I mentioned in the introduction, that's a really neat way of getting around the lumps and bumps and ridges and things in a shipping container. So bend them out and use outriggers on your pipes to make it neat and tidy. You'll see here it was a little bit off. He's annealed that part of the pipe just to bend it ever so slightly in to fit onto that regulator nice and neatly. So I think that's fairly neat and tidy. And there's your vent pipe again outside. So let's come around. Say hello to the foundations, which I'm still yet to bolt in. Let's come around here, and the other foundation that I'm yet to fill in. I didn't want to do that until the plumbers were finished, and which was a good idea, because one of the plumbers spent half his day in there getting accessed underneath here. That there is in inverted commas, rodding access point. What it is for me to be able to put in a laundry tub later on. But again, here in Tassie, a laundry tub. This doesn't have a laundry tub on the plans for a whole bunch of regulatory purposes, but I just want somewhere to be able to wash my hands outside. So that'll get added on later on. Don't tell anyone. Okay, so we're just basically at that gas point. So that gas line is the copper one that you can see running along there. So that runs down here on the inside and then across and out to the regulator. We can see our hot lines. They're all insulated to try and keep them as warm as possible. And here is what we're looking at is our that's our toilet there. Then the external interface there. There's the S-bend for our floor waste. There's the waste over for our bathtub. We can't quite see if I raise up a little bit, you might just make out the waste for the vanity, but it's to the right. So that 4 connector on top of that floor waste was what I was talking about. It just really drew all of the plumbing together in that bathroom and made it really, really easy. As I said, they didn't want to do it. Oh, floor waste, you don't have to put them in, and after he thought about it for 2 seconds and started doing it, he's going, oh, this makes it really easy. Alright, well, duh. So anyway, so there we have it. So there's bath and vanity into the floor, so a 4 adapter at the floor waste there, S-bend for the floor waste. Coming through, we pick up our toilet waste right in front of me. We take a right-hand turn. There's that extra S-bend I mentioned for the kitchen. Again, trunked into the main line there. The other thing that's of interest, which we can't quite see, but again, because of limited space, the dishwasher outlet actually needs to go down through the floor and will connect under here. So it'll just be a little bit of 12-13 mil, so sort of half-inch pipe. That'll be the outlet for the dishwasher, because on that little dish drawer dishwasher, I was very surprised the water outlet is like a pinky finger. It's only really quite small, so it must come out at a fairly good bit of pressure. And then our main line runs out for our sewerage out towards what in Australia is called a surcharge gully, which is just the lowest point with a vent, and here is the lowest point with a drain. So if anything backs up, it's not going to back up inside your house, it's going to back up outside there, which obviously is a much better thing than half the sewage coming back into your house. And there is a really, dodgily snaky bit of PEX. That's some more water to have a tap above that surcharge gully, which we'll get up and have a look at right now. So that's what's going on under there. Again, very straightforward, very simple. Don't mind the mess, please. Postie bike, wonderful bikes for farms. Out past a pile of gravel, just to be used in the rest of the transpiration bed. And here's that surcharge gully now, along with the tap that charges it. So the whole idea is, you can't quite see it because it's under that dust, is there's another S-bend there naturally, and then this is the lowest point of the system that's connected. So if there's a blockage, it's going to come out there. It's not going to back up out of your toilet. And because it's got an S-bend for a water trap to keep the smell out, and has a tap above it to make sure that S-bend stays charged with water. So our line comes here across the road, comes through. Again, in Australia the spec is about a 1 in 65 drop. And here we come into the septic tank. So this septic tank, because it's I can't remember what the spec is, it's 6 meters or something away from the surcharge gully. If it's that far away, it needs to have a separate vent on it as well, and that's what that interesting upside down J piece of pipe is. That's a vent for that. The first one there is an inspection point. Then there's the large inspection point. These two pieces here. These are just leftover bits that need to go into the parts bin. Another 2 inspection points. They like an inspection point here. And then the line down to the transpiration bed. So the transpiration bed, which has caused much wailing and gnashing of teeth, and has been the subject of a couple of videos so far. That goes all the way down here. As you can see, terminates down here into a very large T-piece that allows the effluent to soak away. So what you'll observe here, actually just before we get onto that, so what I've still got to do here, I still need to fill that trench with metal dust so the pipe sits nicely. And once it gets down near here, what you also want to do, just in around here somewhere, is put some clay, so a nice big plug of dirt. So because the idea here is, you should notice that there's a bit of a trench cut above this. That's not accidental. The whole idea is that water comes down the slope there, hits that trench, and is diverted around the transpiration bed. So the idea is you want to keep the transpiration bed as dry as possible so it can transpire, hence the name. So so it comes down here, so I need to put a nice plug there, so that'll stop water. So when the water comes down as a part of in the trench itself from the dust, it'll stop there and then be diverted around. So this last part here, we want to make sure it's got a good clay in it rather than metal dust, so it doesn't let water pass. So that comes down here, so the effluent comes down here in the pipe, and then you'll notice this pipe has slots cut in it, 75mm slots all the way along, and caps on the end. This is the way the Tassie specs does it, which is a little odd to me. We certainly used to do them differently in New South Wales, but this is what's legal here. So I'm waiting now for this to be inspected before another covering of gravel, at least just over the pipes, will go in, and then about 100mm of sand over the entire bed, and then topsoil, then grass seed. So the whole idea of this is that it is able to get wet and then dry out, with some grass on it growing on top of it to help that process. So there you have it. So that is basically an entire plumbing system for a shipping container tiny house that would suit a large block of land, or certainly a block of land where it's large enough to allow you to have your own waste disposal management in terms of a septic tank. But obviously the plumbing still applies if you have a tiny house like this and you're on a small block where there's sewer available. Well, you have basically once you're on this side of the surcharge gully, it'll just go straight into the sewerage system, and Bob's your uncle. Well, anyway, so this is the sort of video that I would have liked to see a while ago to give me some ideas on the most effective way to plumb one of these buildings, but it's been done now, so hopefully this video helps somebody else who might like to, and more importantly be allowed to, attempt it themselves. Okay, if you like this video, do subscribe and hit the like button, because I would like to see some more interaction, and do comment below. Thanks for watching.